back to the channel. Hope you're all doing well out there. And today we're going to take a road trip across Western Australia, baby. But before we do that, do me a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. Join me here, I would appreciate that. And today we're going to play some road games. We're going to discuss the movie Road Games, which came out February 27th of 1981. It's rated PG. It's an hour and 41 minutes long and had a budget of $1.7 million, which at the time, this was the most expensive Australian film ever made up until that point. Now, obviously, after this, they got more expensive, but at the time, this was the most expensive Australian film of all time. This film was directed by Richard Franklin, and we'll talk about him more in a minute. And in this film, I'm just going to talk about the American cast, which there's only two. Stacy Keach plays Pat Quid, an independent truck driver that drives different loads back and forth across Western Australia. And the great Jamie Lee Curtis plays Hitch. That's her nickname that Quid gives her during the film. So that's what we're going to call her. And right in the beginning of the film, we set up that this long stretch of deserted highway, literally desert, between Perth and Melbourne, a killer going around. Several people have been killed by this guy. Hitchhikers mostly. The authorities have no clue who it is. We're introduced to Quid, Pat Quid, who's taking a load of meat across to Perth, across this highway, this deserted highway. And he hears about it as well, and he picks up this one hitchhiker, this woman. They discuss this serial killer a little bit. And then we come to Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Hitch, who Quid picks up, and they start driving, and they have good banter back and forth. Stacy Keach is really, really good here in this film, and he anchors the film, and he is definitely more than capable of handling the starring role here. Because Jamie Lee Curtis's role is a nice size, but it's not nowhere near as big as Stacy Keach's role. And eventually, they spend the night out in the desert. They're sitting by a fire, just telling stories. And Hitch goes off up on this embankment at night, and she's looking down over the valley, and this lightning flashes. And because Quid thinks it's this guy killing people in this green van that he's seen several times. And this Hitch sees this green van parked down, and she can see him. The side door's open, and he's looking right up at her as this lightning flashes, and she goes back to hang out with Quid. And eventually, she's kidnapped by this guy. That Quid is absolutely certain that she was kidnapped, but his mind's playing tricks on him. He's tired. He's been driving a long way, a lot of miles underneath him, and he's playing different scenarios in his head. And then finally, he sees the van where he gets to Perth finally to make his delivery, but he sees the van and he follows it. And they do a smart thing. At this point in the film, they make you think that Quid might be losing it. He's acting erratically. He's doing things he would never have done when we first met him at the beginning of the film. And eventually, we have this confrontation between his truck and his van. Quid's about to be arrested by the authorities. Everybody thinks he's the one that was killing these women. And finally, the guy's slowly trying to get away from the crowd because he really doesn't have any lines. And finally, they've discovered Jamie Lee Curtis's character in the van, tied up in this sleeping bag. And they let her out, and she points him out. He's the one that kidnapped me. He's the killer. And finally, the authorities arrest the killer, and they're left go. And that's the end of Road Games. Well, what to like about this film? Well, the photography of the film by Richard Franklin. There's some spectacular shots, some nice, awesome lighting choices in this film. I really appreciated that. The photography of the nature landscapes out in this long deserted stretch of highway, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Definitely captures the mood and makes it suspenseful. And the other really big positive here is Stacy Keach and Jamie Lee Curtis. Now, Stacy Keach, like I said, is the star here. This movie rests upon his capable shoulders, and he knocks it out of the park. Quid's a very likable guy, but you can tell he's eccentric to a point. And like I said, he does play up when the first time I've ever seen this film, I thought, is he losing it? Is he really not, this guy is not the killer, he's just chasing this guy? And I mean, it ends up being true, but they play up enough, and Stacy Keach goes there enough to really think, is he out of his goddamn mind, really? Has he lost it? I think Richard Franklin does an really nice job here with the directing. There's a scene where Quid goes into this roadhouse off the side of the road to make a phone call to the police, and as he's talking on the phone, the camera starts with him, and he's trying to explain to this police officer who he thinks the killer is. And the camera pans around 360 degrees, taking in the whole roadhouse, and then it comes back around, slowly comes back around to Quid on the phone with the cops still. And it's a great shot. It really, really is. Considering the budget and when this film was made, they did a really nice job with that shot. And actually, the studio, Avco MC, who released this in America, wanted Franklin to cut that shot because they thought it was too long. And he stuck to his guns and said, no, I'm not cutting it, which thank God he didn't. It's a great shot. I love that shot. I don't know what Avco MC was thinking, but Stacy Keach, what else do I like about this film? Well, I think the mystery of it, I think they did really well done, and there's a stinger at the end. After this happy ending, we see Jamie Lee Curtis's character and Stacy Keach's character walking off down this road to their next adventure together. They show like this, because at one point, Quid thinks that there's a dead body in the back of his truck, along with these pigs that were hung up in this refrigerated truck. But he's like, that can't be. Well, this lady at the end, they unloaded all the meat off the truck, and this lady's on this truck, and she's cleaning the floor up with this bucket of soap and water, and all of a sudden this head rolls out and falls in the bucket, and she screams. That's the end of Road Games. It's actually pretty cool. It's a really well done little stinger at the end of the film. This film's not overly gory. Besides the severed head, you really don't see anything else during the film. It's why it's PG. Again, I think Richard Franklin does a really nice job with this film. Is this film perfect? I think there's some odd choices throughout the film. And a few of those odd choices took me out momentarily out of the film. But then it's so good it brings me back in. But this film's not perfect, but I think it's a really well done, solid thriller. Directed by somebody who admired Alfred Hitchcock, was like an Alfred Hitchcock protege, and he admitted it during his career that he studied Hitchcock all the time, studied every shot of Hitchcock's films, met Hitchcock, and that's why he got hired to do Psycho 2 in '83. The strength of his directing in this film is what got Richard Franklin the job of Psycho 2. And if you've never seen Psycho 2, one of the best horror sequels, very underrated. It's a fantastic sequel. And I'm going to review it this year for Halloween. I'm going to review Psycho 1 and 2 for Halloween this year. And I can't wait to talk about Psycho 2. I absolutely love that sequel. Now, Stacy Keach actually learned how to drive a 16-speed semi-truck for this film. He actually did the driving during filming. He actually got that good. Now, the American distributor for this was Avco MC. They put $500,000 towards the budget of this film. And Stacy Keach was the only American actor hired for this film. They actually hired an Australian actress for Jamie Lee Curtis' part. But the studio, Avco MC, wanted another American in the cast. So Richard Franklin went to school at USC Film School in California. And he had just recently visited the set of John Carpenter's The Fog, and he knew John Carpenter. So he thought maybe I can get Jamie Lee Curtis. So he called John Carpenter up and asked him if he thought Jamie Lee would take the part. And John Carpenter gave him her contact information. He got a hold of her, and she took the part. But the crew treated her she was not very well received with the crew. Even Stacy Keach, he's interviewed twice on that special edition Blu-ray from Scream Factory, and he even said he felt bad for her. Like, the crew was mad that this American actress took an Australian actress's job, because there was really strict rules in Australia at that point about how many outsiders you could bring into a production, and the crew was not happy that Jamie Lee Curtis was there, and she kind of felt a little alienated, although her and Stacy Keach, according to Stacy Keach, got along really, really well. But it's a shame that happened to her. This film was actually filmed on a highway in Western Australia between Perth and Melbourne. That's where they filmed this film. And I think it's all I got for trivia. At the end of the day, this is a very solid horror thriller. And I would give this one an 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 for Road Games. Have you ever seen this one? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. Share this video. I would appreciate that. I'll be back soon with some more reviews. But until next time, bye.